Good morning, everyone. National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change. Why this has been in news? Because 30 projects have been sanctioned in the states and the union territories regarding the adaptation towards climate change. Okay. Now, definitely, we need to know regarding National Adaptation Fund. NAFCC, what does it mean? It was established in the month of August in the year 2015. Yes, and we all know that certain countries are very much vulnerable towards climate change. Am I right? When I say climate change, it means the effects of global warming. And India is no exception, right? India is no exception. You can see heat waves are rising, monsoon ends are increasing, isn't it? Temperature is of course rising. Climate change, effects of climate change or global warming does not only mean increment of temperature, but along with that, several other associated effects we are getting. Have you observed nowadays during the winter also there is frequent monsoon? Why? This is a normal case in case of Tamil Nadu. Yes, Tamil Nadu receives rain during winter, but this is not a normal case in the states of Northeast. But this year, if you observe, this year Northeast region has also witnessed rainfall during the month of winter as well. Yes, there was this hailstorm in some places. Why so? They are just the effects of climate change. It's totally changing the environment. It's creating a lot of problems. Anyway, so for this reason, India is also very much vulnerable. So India has to take some steps in order to adapt means they will have to adjust because climate change is inevitable. It will come. We are trying to slow it down, we are trying to stop it down, but still the effects we are feeling it. So for that we need to adapt ourselves, we need to mitigate the impact of climate change. So for adapting, for mitigating the impact of climate change, do we require money? We will require money, right? There will be increase in flood because of climate change. If you want to control flood, if you want to do something for the flood affected areas, again you will require money, isn't it? So money is very, very important. So basically this is why NAFCC, it aims to meet the cost of adaptation to climate change. This fund, they will try to give the fund into the states and the union territories so that the states and the union territories, basically the country of India, can adapt itself. And NAFCC is now with a tie with NABARD. Okay, you can read it. NABARD is also helping NAFCC to get into its action. I have written here very clearly how NABARD is associated with NAFCC, so you can read it. Okay. Now, as I'm saying regarding a term called as adaptation. Have you ever heard regarding adaptation fund under Quito Protocol? So adaptation fund from the exam perspective is also important. Just because NFCC is taking up 30 major projects doesn't mean that question will be asked how many projects have been initiated. No, these questions may not be asked. So Quito Protocol is important. What are the things under Quito Protocol? Then those are important. So read all this in a well manner. Okay, so you can see this adaptation fund was established in the year 2001 under UNFCCC. We all have studied about UNFCCC, isn't it? We have studied about this. So basically Just like the function of NAFCCC under Adaptation Fund, this Adaptation Fund will give some amount of money to those developing countries who are struggling with the impacts of climate change. Are you getting my point? Those who are struggling with climate change, with the impacts of climate change, those countries are being given some amount of fund, and those are the vulnerable communities. Okay, under the Quito Protocol, we have clean development mechanism project in which developed countries will do its project, okay, in developing countries, and in return they will get some kind of credit, right? They will get some kind of credit. Clean development mechanism, one was the joint implementation, one is the CDM. Here the developed countries will do a project in developed countries, developed to developed, right? Here developed countries will do a project in developing countries, and India and China are the two countries in which most of the projects, industrial setup by foreign countries or any other things which emits carbon, these kind of project has been set up in India and China primarily. And as India has permitted their land, as India has given their land and permitted for emission of carbon, so in return, what is India getting? India is getting certain amount of money. Am I right? It's getting certain amount of money. So these are certified emission reductions, CERs, and these CERs under Clean Development Project, from that some percentage is given to the Adaptation Fund for the developing countries and the World Bank. It serves as a trustee of the Adaptation Fund. Next, International Space Station. I hope every one of you have heard regarding ISS, isn't it? And why it has been in news? Because NASA, it plans to retire ISS by 2031. Yes. Now the case is that, so ISS, it was launched in 2000. You can say its space lab has orbited this much of miles above the Earth with more than 200 astronauts. So ISS is, what is ISS? It's basically a space lab. Yes, it's space lab. And it's in LEO, isn't it? Lower Earth orbit. It will be present in the LEO. And if you see ISS after the moon, it's the second large object that is revolving around our Earth. Remember, so this is our Earth, and here will be the moon that is making its revolution. Just after this moon, there is this ISS, which is the second large object. Although it's artificial, it's the second large thing that is clearly making its revolution. Yes, 2 football grounds. Yes, 2 football grounds. Anyway, this ISS, since it's making its orbit in Leo, there is definitely a high chance that if there are any space junks present, it could get struck by space junks, and if it gets struck by space junks, then the entire ISS will be crashed down. As it gets crashed down, it will fall into somewhere on the Earth. Do you remember what is this somewhere? Where will it fall into? There is a particular part in which everything falls. It's a part of the Pacific Ocean, right? It will fall into a part of the Pacific Ocean which is called as Point Nemo. Yes, are you being able to recall Point Nemo. And Point Nemo is believed to be that part of the Pacific Ocean which is farthest from any landmass of the Earth. From any landmass, if you try to see the Point Nemo, it's the furthest. Everything from space, if it falls into the Earth, it's obvious that it will fall into the Point Nemo under the Pacific Ocean. And nowadays, the space junks are increasing, and therefore, NASA is also thinking that, okay, ISS has done a lot of work, so let us make it retired, and by 2031, it will gradually lower down its altitude. ISS, if you have to know it more, ISS, it can support a crew of 6 people, okay? Crew of 6 people. Every time there will be 6 astronauts, astronaut scientists, basically they will be present. And why ISS is important? All the activities that needs to be done, the research work that needs to be done on this space are done on the ISS. 6 people for a period of 6 months. They are replaced every time. Okay? And who are the countries? Of course, US, Russia, Japan, and European, some countries of European space agencies. Okay? Then how will this ISS will come down? Basically, ISS will first, the NASA, it will lower down the altitude gradually, and gradually by lowering down the altitude, it will try to make it fall in the Point Nemo, South Pacific Ocean uninhabited area, or the Point Nemo. Okay. Initially, whenever the ISS was made, ISS was thought to be projected for 15 years. It was having its objectives of projection for 15 years. It's tenure, okay? But by 2014, so it was started in 2000, right? 15 years means 2000 to 2015. But by 2014, NASA, again, it extended its journey for 10 years. So it's thinking that we will operate to 2024 or 25. But again, this extension has been made that, okay, by 2031, we will, for sure, we will drop down the ISS.